2018 has been, more than anything else, a year of change for me. So many things have happened that have further shaped me into the man I am today. So why is it that I'm sitting here in my house at the start of the new year with a rather sour taste in my throat? Why do I feel as if I've accomplished nothing at best and at worst have taken a step back in terms of overall satisfaction with myself and my plans for the future? Well, the key word is perspective, and will be something I'll be coming back to a few times throughout the video. There's a huge variety of different experiences one will encounter throughout the time span of a year, some good and some bad. But the way I see it, the manner in which you persevere through these experiences are determined by this idea of perspective. For example, let's say you just found out that your friend passed away. Now, looking at the situation objectively, this would be referred to as a bad scenario. Obviously, if put into this kind of situation, you'd most likely need time to digest everything, go through the stages of grief, etc. Those are very real neurological processes, but are not the subject of this video. What I'd like to talk about is the mental state in the longer run. Those feelings of, when all is said and done, emptiness, seemingly unfillable voids in the heart that linger on for far too long. Questions of what more you could have done, how you could have changed things. All the things, if you were going to go back in time, you could have done differently. The severity of these feelings are determined by perspective, because you can sit there and think about all the potential wrongs you have done, or you can get the most out of those new experiences while they lasted, learn from them, and continue to live and create new ones. Perspective is insanely difficult to overcome, and to all of you watching this video who have managed to accomplish it, I wholeheartedly applaud. And to those of you like me, who spend seemingly way too much time still thinking about those moments from the past, the ones who are desperately clinging on to that mountain of persistent thoughts, memories, delusions, I thank you for watching my video because I'm right here with you, hanging on to the happiness I have left as the mountain grows bigger and bigger and bigger. Perspective can appear impossible to overcome, but God help me, I'm not going to stop climbing. Now, I know what you're thinking. You clicked on this video to hear some guy talk about regret and give you the secret ingredient on how to get over it. And I can hear all of you typing away in the comments about how I have yet to even say the word regret once in this whole video so far, and that I quote-unquote clickbaited you. If I gave you the impression that I'm going to provide all the answers to overcoming that big nasty R word, then I apologize sincerely, because you've got me all wrong. The undeniable truth is that there is no answer. But if we piece together the effects of perspective and the individual situations we experience that later on causes this regret, we may find ourselves able to come to terms with these overwhelming feelings. Regret comes in many shapes and sizes. It can be formulated by any life experience, ranging from an awkward moment with that girl you really liked to the premature loss of a loved one. Based on personal experience, the severity and sheer level of regret from these kinds of situations are, in fact, very similar. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that the actual scenario of a mere awkward moment is as sad or as emotionally bearing as that of losing a loved one. That's simply not the case. However, the times when you find yourself lying in bed, unable to sleep because of these thoughts, always feel like the same kind of pain, no matter what life event decided to pop up in your mind that night. Even the smallest things can leave that bitter feeling in your mind and can really tear you apart in terrible ways that make you feel lost, alone, and defenseless. A perfect example would be the time I was slapped by a history teacher in high school. You see, a good friend of mine asked me to sing a duet with her in performance for my school. After careful consideration, I finally said yes, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. As it turned out, I sucked at singing. At the time, my self-confidence was at an all-time low, awkwardness at an all-time high. As you can imagine, these characteristics accompanied by this particular situation could not by any means create positive results. But it proved to be even worse than I imagined, as when the dress rehearsal began, my partner was sick and couldn't make it, so another girl came in as a last-minute substitute. The event coordinator basically told me our harmony wasn't great, and was nothing like the video we sent him. And of course I was just standing there taking all the shots with nothing to respond to besides the dull, kind of thing. This man decided it would be best to slap some confidence into me, and he most certainly did, but all I could do was stand there and take it. This all happened nearly 3 years ago, and here I am still talking about it, subconsciously creating scenarios in which the situation could have played out better, thinking about all the things I could have done to not make a fool of myself on stage, and in the process hurt my partner's feelings as our performance we worked so hard for had been cancelled. I acknowledge the fact that, like most situations, there were many factors out of my control. I couldn't have done anything to change them. But what's most prevalent, and is the very reason I wanted to make this video, is that even with all these factors, my perspective is still unchanged, and that dress rehearsal still lingers on my mind today. Regret is a powerful emotion, and often restrains the person from ever moving forward with a genuine feeling of happiness and excitement. One of my favorite films, Manchester by the Sea, is one of the most accurate displays of a character coping with regret that I've ever seen within the cinematic medium. In the movie, Lee Chandler is a janitor and handyman who constantly carries the burden of a crucial, life-changing mistake he made in the past. When he discovers that his brother has passed away and has willed him to take care of his only son, Lee has no choice but to return to the town that plagues his memories and face the mistakes he made head-on. This movie perfectly depicts three main topics I want to discuss regarding the factors that can help us more effectively cope with regret. The first of these three factors is environment. The environment is a substantial aspect of our memories that can hold dire consequences when it comes to feeling regret. In the movie, this environment was Manchester, the town in which Lee made this crucial mistake that he cannot forgive himself for. When driving through the streets of Manchester for the first time in several years, Lee finds himself surrounded by artifacts of his past. Buildings, street names, the vast open sea, all of which serve as totems, refueling thoughts from the one lingering moment, remnants that keep reminding him of what he's been so determined to forget. Depending on the severity of the situation, the brain can seem like it's almost mechanically wired to avoid the environment as much as possible because of all the reignited memories it can bring. And as hard as it may be, returning to the environment in which you've had these moments can actually prove to be very beneficial. Because based on personal experiences, like people, places can change too. Going back to my previous anecdote, the moment when that teacher slapped me and I embarrassed myself in front of several people, I didn't want to have anything to do with that stage ever again. Looking at it gave me chills as the memories I kept trying to suppress managed to leak free. It hurt to look at that stage for nearly a half a year. But one day I decided to join my school's tech crew and of course had to go backstage. However, I was welcomed by a ton of new friends, and before I knew it, those dreadful memories began to fade into newer, happier ones. Now don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be sitting here typing up this essay had those memories been completely dissipated. They are still prevalent. The only thing that's different about it is the environment of that stage now holds a positive placeholder in my mind, as it was the very place in which I met many people who mean a lot to me. If you are ready to work up the courage and revisit some not so great scenes from your past, you could potentially make something good out of it and meet some new people and encounter some positive experiences. Going back to Manchester by the Sea, Lee meets his nephew for the first time in years, who becomes a very close son to him and provides him the opportunities to meet others who reside within Manchester. This leads me to my second point, people. Going back to the place in which your inner demons reside can be really difficult, but for most cases, revisiting the people associated with these memories can be even more emotionally straining. According to a study from the US National Library of Medicine, 15% of regret is constructed on the foundation of love. In other words, a pretty significant chunk of regret is felt on the basis of a connection with another human being. People. If we want any chance of overcoming our regret and gaining new perspective, we need closure with people associated with these memories. Now let's look at this profound scene from Manchester by the Sea when Lee encounters his ex-lover, the very person who makes him feel an overwhelming amount of self-loathing and pity just casually on the street.
My heart was broken. It's always gonna be broken. And I know yours is broken too. But I don't have to carry I said things that I should fucking burn in hell for what I said to you. It was just...
No, Randy, no.
I'm just sorry.
I can't...
I love you. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Oh, you can say that.
It's just...
I'm sorry, I've got to go.
We couldn't have lunch.
I'm really sorry, I don't think so. Thank you for saying everything that you said.
You can't just die.
I'm not.
Honey.
I want you to be happy.
Honey, I see you walking around here. And I just want to tell you.
I would want to talk to you, Randy. Please, you gotta...
Lee. Lee, I don't know what...
No,
I don't want to torture you.
You're not torturing me.
I just want to tell you that I was wrong.
No. You understand? There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
That's not true. That's not true.
You don't understand. And I don't know what this... I know you understand. I've got to go. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Throughout this scene, Lee doesn't really know how to respond to the words coming out of his ex's mouth. He's a dead, broken shell of his former self, and his ex sees that, and out of her own regret, tries to apologize for what she believes she's done to him. This is a painfully accurate depiction of two broken people, bearing the weight of regret on themselves and each other's backs. One trying desperately to make amends and restart, while the other tries as hard as possible to hold back his emotions, knowing that it will inflict even more hurt. There's nothing there, he repeats to himself again and again. There's nothing there. Now, I know that this example can be seen as a contradiction to what I've been trying to say. Surely, if meeting up with people associated with one's regrets will give these characters so much struggle, then it is disadvantageous to attempt it myself. Yes, attempting to reconcile with these people will undoubtedly be emotional, but in the end, it can help you obtain closure, or at least slow down the regretful thoughts. Admittedly, I have not built up the courage to speak with that teacher ever since it happened, but I have spoken with my partner, and although it was not easy at first, I learned that she gave a very kind demeanor in regards to the whole situation, and she never held a grudge towards me. It's impossible to know what people are thinking until you talk with them. Sometimes you feel so overwhelmed with guilt and regret when in reality, the other person doesn't hold any ill feelings towards you at all. All it takes is getting over that fear, struggling past the emotions, and having a real conversation with them to see where you stand in each other's lives. Finally, I want to talk about the aspect of self. Self is the underlying center that connects all other factors into this one profound feeling of regret. When you look past the environment, past the people, you'll notice that the hardest thing to actually come to terms with is yourself. Take a look at Manchester by the Sea, for example. When all is said and done, Lee gives up. He's gained new experiences in Manchester. He's received an emotional apology from his ex. But in the end, he simply cannot forgive himself for the past. I can't beat it, are the exact words he tells his nephew.
I can't beat it. I can't beat it. I'm sorry.
Lee has hit the final obstacle in the path to overcoming regret, yet is unable to surpass it, and has no other option but to give in. Self, unlike the other two factors, I honestly have no words of reasoning for. I don't know why it happens. And unfortunately, like Lee, so many others, including myself, end up falling short of overcoming their guilt because they run into the towering, unbreakable brick ceiling of self-loathing and get sent straight down to rock bottom. I don't know why these memories keep filling my mind, Why images of moments past never cease to find its way back into the spotlight, and why I let them get to me as much as they do. When shit starts to weigh in your mind, any situation gets sour fast and begins to kill the mood. You're out with some friends, having a good time, and then one of your friends brings up soccer. And all of a sudden it triggers the memory of you and your childhood best friend hanging out in the yard, kicking a ball together, and realizing that you've grown up and so has he, but he hates your guts now, doesn't even want to talk to you. And you think of all the things that have gone wrong and all the things you could have done or said but didn't, and how every awkward, petty situation since then has all been your fault. The atmosphere around you begins to blur, and the voices get muffled as you feel your consciousness take form and continue to add the weights to your back, tighten the chains to your wrists, and you can't do anything about it because you're too weak, and you're too scared, and you're too sorry. Too sorry for all the things you've done, but really haven't done. Because 9 times out of 10, you really haven't done these things. You didn't know things were going to go this way at that time. How could you? When you finally open up to people, they assure you it's not your fault. And you know it's not your fault, yet you still hurt yourself thinking about it. You are hurt by yourself, and as a result, you feel the tension rise in others, feel the connections cut loose, and you feel more alone than ever. You've smashed your head right into that brick ceiling, and on your way back down you see all the lost progress you've made. And like Lee, it's at these moments that you remind yourself, I can't beat it. It's safe to say that Manchester by the Sea has far from a happy ending. In the end, Lee accepts this fact and continues to be the depressed, introverted shell of a man we've been watching ever since the beginning of the movie. That can't be right, can it? What kind of film ends with 0 character development? With these questions in mind, I decided I needed to give this movie another go. And upon rewatch, it dawned upon me that it wasn't necessarily Lee who had significant development. Rather, it were those whom he had interacted with. Let's look at his ex-wife Randy, for example. At the beginning of the story, Randy was a woman trying desperately hard to move on. She had begun a new relationship and was even pregnant, yet she still couldn't get over the belief that something was still there between her and Lee. Coming back to Manchester, as painful as it was, Lee was able to give Randy the closure that she needed. And later on in the burial scene, this closure is portrayed as Randy is with her new husband and baby, standing mere feet apart from Lee, but not showing any ounce of regret or remorse, ready to start her new life. And then there's Patrick, Lee's nephew, who, thanks to Lee's help, grew from an edgy, rebellious teen to an open and mature young adult who isn't afraid of expressing to others how he really feels. During his time in Manchester, Lee was able to make a positive impact to all the people around him, heavily contrasting his previous life in that very town before the incident occurred. Although unable to get over himself, Lee did end up leaving a very positive mark on the town that ironically gives him this much mental anguish. Like Lee, there are some of us who will likely never get over certain guilts and regrets from the past. But Manchester by the Sea proves that even with all our preconceived flaws and self-doubts, we are still capable of helping others. And who knows, maybe it'll end up helping us too in the end. None of us are perfect. We all have done things in the past we wish we hadn't. We all have those desires to just go back and change things for the better. But maybe if we utilize that mindset towards the future instead, maybe something good will come out of it. I made many mistakes in 2018, and I know I will in 2019. But maybe 2019 will be a better year. It's all really a matter of perspective. Hey everyone, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your support. I'm going to try pumping out some more of these video essays about once a month. I'll try to make it happen. So if you want to stay for more of this kind of content, please make sure to subscribe and follow the channel. Hope you guys have a nice one. Remember that you are loved. Thank you.